Ever wondered what kept medieval people up at night? Would you believe our ancestors genuinely feared encounters with dragons and sea monsters? Number 7. The Kraken, terror of the deep. Did sailors really abandon voyages in fear of massive tentacles dragging them to watery graves? The Kraken wasn't just another tall tale told by drunken mariners. It was a legitimate concern for anyone brave enough to venture into the northern seas. Norse legends speak of the Kraken as a creature so massive it could be mistaken for an island. Imagine setting anchor on what you believe is solid land, only to have it suddenly descend into the depths, taking your ship and crew with it. The earliest written record comes from King Sverre of Norway in 1180, with the creature described as a massive squid-like beast with arms the length of a ship's mast. What's truly fascinating is that the Kraken wasn't purely imagination. Real-life giant squids reaching lengths of up to 43 feet occasionally washed up on Scandinavian shores, validating sailors' wildest stories. These decomposing carcasses, sometimes barely recognizable, fueled the legend for centuries. In 1555, the Swedish writer Olaus Magnus published his History of the Northern Peoples, including detailed accounts of the Kraken attacking ships. His contemporary maps even marked dangerous areas with sea monsters, serving as practical warnings to sailors about perilous waters. The Kraken became so embedded in maritime culture that insurance companies in the 1700s would officially list it as a legitimate risk factor, alongside storms and pirates. Ship captains would document Kraken sightings in their logs with the same seriousness as navigation details or weather reports. The creature wasn't merely a superstition, it represented a genuine occupational hazard for those who made their living at sea. Number 6. The basilisk, death in a glance. Can you die just by making eye contact with an animal? Medieval Europeans certainly thought so. The basilisk, not the chamber-dwelling serpent from Harry Potter, was believed to be a real creature capable of killing with just a glance. The basilisk legend originated in ancient times but reached peak popularity during the Middle Ages. Described as a serpent king, the name comes from basiliskos, meaning little king in Greek. This creature supposedly hatched from an egg laid by a rooster and incubated by a toad or snake. Already, the bizarre reproductive method suggests something unnatural and sinister. The medieval basilisk was typically portrayed as a reptilian creature with a rooster's head, complete with a crown-like comb. Its powers were terrifying. It could kill plants simply by breathing on them, shatter stones with its hiss, and most famously, cause instant death to anyone who met its gaze. The only creature immune to its deadly powers was supposedly the weasel, which became known as a basilisk hunter. In 1587, a genuine basilisk panic swept through Warsaw. Citizens reported a basilisk hiding in the cellar of a house. Several people who ventured down to investigate allegedly died on the spot. The city council, taking the threat seriously, offered a substantial reward to anyone who could eliminate the creature. According to accounts, a condemned prisoner volunteered for the task in exchange for his freedom. Equipped with mirrors and protective clothing, he descended into the cellar. When he returned alive and presumably wealthy, he reported finding not a basilisk but several poisonous lizards whose venom had likely caused the previous deaths. Medieval physicians even documented basilisk treatments in their medical texts. One recommended remedy involved holding a rooster toward the affected person, as the bird would absorb the basilisk's poison first. Another popular protective measure was carrying a mirror, which would supposedly reflect the deadly gaze back onto the basilisk itself, an early version of "No, you." Number 5. The barnacle goose, bird or barnacle. Did geese grow on trees in the Middle Ages? According to respected natural philosophers and clergymen, absolutely. The barnacle goose presented a fascinating theological and biological puzzle for medieval minds. The barnacle goose mystery begins with a dietary loophole. During Lent and other fasting periods, Christians were forbidden from eating meat but permitted to eat fish. Waterfowl like the barnacle goose, Brantoleucopsis, presented a classification challenge: was it meat or something else? The solution came in the form of an extraordinary origin story. These birds weren't born from eggs like other birds, but grew from barnacles attached to driftwood. This wasn't just a peasant superstition. In the 12th century, Gerald of Wales, a respected archdeacon and chronicler, wrote in his Topographia Hibernica, "They are produced from fir timber tossed along the sea, and are at first like gum. Afterward they hang down by their beaks as if they were seaweed attached to the timber, and are surrounded by shells in order to grow more freely." The scientific evidence seemed compelling. Goose barnacles, Lepus anatifera, do indeed look remarkably like tiny birds when open, with their feathery appendages resembling wings. The barnacle geese's nesting habits contributed to the confusion. They breed in remote Arctic regions where few Europeans ventured, making their reproduction seemingly mysterious. Without witnessing the actual nesting and egg-laying, people genuinely believed these birds emerged fully formed from shellfish. This belief was so widespread that cookbooks from the 13th century categorized barnacle geese as acceptable Lenten fare. The Church eventually had to step in, with Pope Innocent III specifically prohibiting eating these birds during fasting periods in 1215, essentially declaring, "Sorry, it's still a bird no matter where you think it comes from." The barnacle goose myth persisted for centuries. As late as 1597, the botanist John Gerard claimed to have personally witnessed barnacle geese developing from shellfish, providing detailed descriptions and illustrations in his famous Herbal or General History of Plants. Even when explorers eventually discovered the actual Arctic nesting grounds, many Europeans remained skeptical, preferring the miraculous barnacle explanation over mundane egg-laying. Number 4. The manticore, Persian nightmare. Would you run from a creature with a human face, lion's body, and scorpion tail? Persian travelers brought tales of the manticore to European audiences, who accepted these accounts as factual zoology rather than folklore. The manticore, from the Persian Marduk Haur, meaning man-eater, first appeared in European consciousness through Ctesias, a Greek physician who served at the Persian court around 400 BCE. His accounts described the manticore as having 3 rows of teeth, the face and ears of a human, blue eyes, a red color, a scorpion's tail with a stinger, and the voice of a trumpet. Most disturbingly, it reportedly shoots its stings out front so it can shoot at a distance of even 100 feet, and when they hit their mark, they are always fatal, except for elephants. While modern readers might immediately categorize this alongside other fantasy creatures, medieval natural historians included the manticore in their serious zoological works. The respected 13th century encyclopedist Vincent of Beauvais included detailed manticore descriptions in his Speculum Naturale, Mirror of Nature, presenting the creature alongside lions, wolves, and other accepted animals. The manticore's human face particularly disturbed medieval Christians, who saw in it a perversion of humanity, almost demonic in nature. Yet despite this unsettling quality, travelers claimed manticores were kept in the menageries of Persian kings, alongside other exotic but real animals like elephants and tigers. By the 14th century, the manticore had become a staple in Bestiary's medieval catalogues of animals that blended zoological observation with moral lessons. In these works, illustrated with vivid miniatures, the manticore represented the sin of hypocrisy, beautiful and alluring on the outside but deadly within. Knights were reportedly instructed on manticore fighting techniques as part of their training for exotic adventures. Travelers returning from Asia were frequently questioned about manticore sightings. Those wishing to establish credibility as worldly explorers often included descriptions of encounters, further cementing the creature's place in the medieval understanding of world fauna. Marco Polo notably was one of the few who expressed skepticism, suggesting that what people were describing might actually be tigers. Number 3. The phoenix, death and rebirth in flames. Could a bird really burst into flames and emerge renewed from its own ashes? For medieval Christians, the phoenix wasn't just a myth, it was a natural wonder that perfectly symbolized Christ's resurrection. The phoenix legend originated in ancient Egypt but found new significance in medieval Christian Europe. Described as a magnificent bird with gold and crimson plumage, it was said to live for exactly 500 years before building its own funeral pyre. There, it would be consumed by flames, only to rise reborn from its own ashes, a perfect natural parallel to Christian theology. In the 7th century, Bishop Isidore of Seville included the phoenix in his Encyclopedia Etymology, describing it as a real bird from Arabia. His contemporary, the Venerable Bede, went further, calculating the phoenix's most recent rebirth to have occurred in the year Christ was born, a convenient cosmic confirmation of Christian doctrine. What makes the phoenix unique among medieval beasts is that nobody claimed to have actually seen one. Its rarity was built into its mythology. Only one phoenix could exist at a time, and it deliberately lived far from human habitation. This conveniently explained why no physical specimens could be produced, while still allowing it to be classified as a real creature. Despite never being seen, the phoenix influenced medieval medicine. Physicians prescribed phoenix ashes, usually just exotic spices, for rejuvenation treatments. Wealthy patients paid premium prices for these supposed regenerative compounds, believing they contained particles from the legendary bird's rebirth. The phoenix appeared regularly in church art, where its symbolic meaning was more important than zoological accuracy. Stained glass windows, manuscripts, and stone carvings depicted the bird in flames, visually connecting its rebirth to Christ's resurrection. For medieval congregations, seeing a phoenix wasn't merely viewing a mythical creature, it was witnessing a natural proof of their faith's central miracle. As late as the 16th century, serious naturalists still included the phoenix in their catalogues of birds. The renowned Swiss naturalist Conrad Gessner listed it in his Historiae Animalium, 1551 to 1558, though he admitted some skepticism about certain aspects of the traditional accounts. Number 2. Unicorns, more than just magic horses. Did unicorn horns really purify poisoned water? Medieval nobles paid fortunes for unicorn horn, cups, and eating utensils that would allegedly neutralize any poison, a practical concern in courts where assassination was a constant threat. Unicorns combined the familiar horses with the exotic, the single horn, making them believable to medieval minds. Unlike some wholly fantastical creatures, unicorns seemed biologically plausible. They were described as horse-like animals with a single horn projecting from their foreheads, usually with cloven hooves and sometimes a goat's beard. The unicorn's place in medieval reality was cemented by its appearance in the Bible. Well, sort of. The King James translation mentions unicorns several times, though modern translations recognize this as a mistranslation of the Hebrew ram, likely referring to the now extinct aurochs or wild ox. For medieval readers, however, this biblical reference provided divine confirmation of the unicorn's existence. Beyond religious texts, respected medical authorities prescribed unicorn horn, ground into powder, for everything from plague to melancholy. The 11th century physicians of Mythical in Wales included unicorn preparations in their medical formularies alongside herbs we still use today. These weren't fringe remedies, but mainstream medicine practiced at the highest levels of society. What were people actually consuming when they took unicorn medicine? Usually narwhal tusks, which reached Europe through Viking trade routes. These spiral marine mammal teeth, reaching lengths of up to 10 feet, perfectly matched descriptions of the fabled unicorn horn. The resemblance was so convincing that a narwhal tusk presented to Charles VI of France was valued at 50,000 ducats, roughly $5 million in today's currency. The unicorn's legendary purity made it especially valuable. Only a virgin could capture a unicorn, according to medieval lore. Once the unicorn laid its head in a virgin's lap, hunters could approach and take the valuable horn. This connection to purity explained why unicorn horn could purify water and neutralize poison. Its inherent virtue overcame corruption. Queen Elizabeth I kept a unicorn horn worth £10,000 millions in today's money in her royal collection. Like many nobles, she used drinking vessels allegedly made from unicorn horn as protection against poisoning attempts. When served suspicious drinks, she would dip her unicorn implement into the liquid. If it bubbled or changed color, poison was present. The actual narwhal ivory might have reacted to certain acidic compounds, occasionally providing legitimate poison detection. Number 1. Dragons, scaly reality or fiery fiction. Were dragon-slaying knights actually fighting dinosaur bones? The medieval world buzzed with reports of dragons, not as fantasy creatures but as dangerous animals requiring extermination by brave heroes or devout saints. The dragon occupied a special place in medieval natural history, that of an extreme yet real threat. Unlike modern fantasy depictions, medieval dragons varied widely in their described appearance. Some had wings, others didn't. Some breathed fire, others had poisonous blood. This variability actually added to their believability, suggesting a family of related species rather than a single fictional template. In 1590, the Italian naturalist Ulisse Aldrovandi published Serpentum et Draconum Historiae, a scientific work documenting various dragon specimens, complete with detailed anatomical illustrations. He included the account of a dragon killed near Bologna in 1572, providing measurements and physical characteristics as precisely as any modern zoological report. Physical evidence of dragons circulated throughout Europe. Churches and town halls displayed dragon bones, likely fossils of prehistoric creatures or cleverly arranged animal remains. The bones of a supposed dragon hung in Vienna's St. Stephen's Cathedral for centuries, only identified as mammoth remains in the 19th century. Dragon slaying emerged as a practical profession in alpine regions. Town records from places like Lucerne, Switzerland show payments made to professional dragon killers who eliminated these pests from mountain caves. These weren't symbolic positions but legitimate occupations addressing what people genuinely perceived as dangerous local wildlife. Medical texts prescribed dragon's blood, usually just red tree resin for wounds and digestive ailments. Dragon fat was recommended for joint pain, while powdered dragon bones supposedly cured fever. Apothecaries charged premium prices for these remedies, and physicians documented their supposed effectiveness in treating patients. The geographical distribution of dragon accounts offers fascinating insights into how medieval people interpreted their environments. Dragon sightings clustered around areas now known to have significant fossil deposits. When villagers discovered dinosaur or mammoth bones eroding from hillsides, they reconstructed these unfamiliar skeletons into the most logical explanation their knowledge framework provided: dragons. Saint George, arguably the most famous dragon slayer, wasn't viewed as a mythical hero, but as a historical figure who had performed a necessary public service by eliminating a dangerous creature. His dragon slaying was portrayed with the same historical authenticity as his martyrdom, both considered factual events in the life of a real person. Even after the Renaissance began introducing more skeptical approaches to natural history, dragons maintained their place in scientific literature. Conrad Gessner's groundbreaking Historiae Animalium, 1551 to 1558, the forerunner of modern zoological texts, included detailed dragon descriptions and illustrations, classifying them alongside known reptiles in a taxonomic approach that would have made perfect sense to readers of his time. Have you ever wondered what other myths from our past might actually contain fragments of truth? How might future generations look back at what we consider obvious facts today?